A very good evening to all of you. I hope I'm audible. All right. So, we begin with the first day about the POSH training. And after the introduction is being done, I think before wasting much time, let's start with the session. काहीतरी इथे प्रॉब्लेम येतो असं मल्टिपल दिसतं. I hope you all can see the screen now. Hope you all can see the screen now. All right. So, as usual, there are going to be the discussion on cases which belongs to maybe some very personalities which are well known, some judges. So we have to maintain, uh, all the confidentiality and the matters discussed, whatever during the workshop. No personal remarks, and please switch off your mobile phones. Now, I would just like you all to tell me, kindly share your views. The POSH Act applies to the organizations having 10 or more female employees. Can you just, whether this is true or false? Yes, this is false because it applies to the lesser than 10 organizations and which are unorganized. All right. So we'll cover that part also eventually. The next is the POSH Act is only applicable to the employees. What do you all think about this? Yes, it is applicable not only to the employees but to everybody else. So I'll give you an example. If yours is an organization and if you have ordered something, say on Swiggy or Zomato, and the delivery boy comes and he misbehaves with you or he sexually abuses you, so even if he is not employee of the organization, you can very well complain against him, and he would be entitled under the POSH Act. Now here, not only an employee, but the employer is also, the act applies to the employer also. So if the employer is misbehaving, then you can file a complaint about the employer as well. We come to the next. The IC is made up of only female employees in an organization. It's not true. Generally, only the president is a senior most women of the organization. So she should hold some senior most post. Secondly, is at least half of the members should be female in the organization. So 50% should be women. Rest can be males. Next, the IC must resolve all the complaints of sexual harassment through an inquiry process. Again, this is not true. If the victim, that the women, she wishes that it can be conciliated, there is a provision of conciliation in the act itself. And why this provision is made? See, I'll give you an example to elaborate on this. For example, if a person is, belongs to a totally different culture, So for example, he is from the western culture. He is brought up in the countries like USA and all Europe. So there complimenting a woman is uh, it's like okay. But when he comes to India and he is working on some project and he says to some woman particular that, oh, you look so beautiful. But there is nothing in his mind. He starts his work, and here the woman feels very offended by that statement. So she decides to file a complaint. So here there could be a cultural difference, there could be misunderstandings. So in such cases, conciliation is an appropriate move, right? So conciliation provision is kept. But one should remember it's not on the monetary terms. Now, what is this on the monetary terms? Not like that, "Ki, I'll give you so much of money, please withdraw the case against me." It's not of that kind. All right. But if the women insist that no, it should be the full inquiry should be conducted, then in that case, the IC, it's mandatory on IC to conduct the inquiry of such a woman. Now we come to the next. There can be one IC for all branches of the company. Now again here every unit of the organization has to have different IC. There cannot be one in totality. So we have to have different units for every branch. Now let's talk about the myth which is surrounded against this act. So first is POSH is women oriented law. It's not, because it does not only protect the women of the organization, but it protects the men also. And now, how? Look, see, it teaches you how to set the professional boundaries, how to behave in a professional setup. In professional setup, you are expected to behave professionally. So, for both men and women, this boundary setting up is what the POSH teaches us. Second is the POSH trainer should be a woman. Again, this is a myth. In fact, more and more men should come for this training because their perspective would be different. One could understand that perspective as well. So it's very important that men enter in this field of training, and it should be a balancing thing, which is very important, right? So I congratulate the men who have joined our course. I think two or three men are there present. So three. So I congratulate them for joining this course, and I'm sure that you will be a good trainer. The next is the trainer should be a lawyer. Again, this is a myth. A person who is well acquainted with the act, who knows how the inquiry process is conducted, or all about the act, how the how the training is to be done. If he knows, and moreover he is updated with the latest case laws, he can be a good trainer, and it's not essential that he should be a lawyer. All right. External member should be a lawyer. Now again here, this is a myth. External member, it's not obligatory that he should be a lawyer. It could be anybody. Only he should be a person. It can be he or she. That person should either be connected with NGO or doing something for the cause of women, or he should have some legal background because he is in the ICC, Internal Complaint Committee. So obviously he should know how the process is to be conducted in a fair way. POSH law doesn't apply if you have less than 10 employees. Well, as I have said, in unorganization sectors, it applies to lesser than 10 employees. Ours is a foreign company, Indian law is not applicable. See, if you are situated in a foreign country, it's fine. But if you are there in our soil, in Indian soil, then this act is very much applicable to you, right? So, whether it's Indian employees or not, when you are situated in India, law would be applicable to you, right? So, you cannot have that excuse that this is not applicable since ours is a foreign company, because maybe the employees are Indians. Even if the employees are not Indians, you may be outsourcing some work, kind of work from India. So this act is very much applicable to you all. Now, why this POSH training is important? As we have seen that there are many excuses. The POSH Act was enacted in the year 2030, but there were many excuses. Like ours is an organization which is lesser than 10 people. Ours is an organization who doesn't have women employees, or all are women, so this doesn't applies to us, and all these kind of excuses were given. But now it is very much stringent that posh all compliance should be done by everybody. So, first of all, you cannot take the defense of ignorance of law. Secondly, it ensures the safe working environment because it helps the equality, it sets the boundaries, it brings in more professionalism in the behavior. POSH awareness training is critical in any organization to protect women's right and maintain high quality environment for success and growth. Look, if such a incident happens in the company, it has a very adverse impact on both men and women. For example, a woman can go under depression, she may leave the job, or she may not give her 100%. And if there is a false accusation on a man, then there are cases wherein they have committed the suicide. So one should be very, very careful about all these things. Further, it also defines what is sexual harassment and what is not sexual harassment. Now, meeting deadline is part and parcel of every organization, may it be an IT company or an educational setup. So, uh, one should, if there is a deadline to meet and somebody is asking you that I want this work within this stipulated time period, or we all have to wait for this because tomorrow and a committee is coming. So in this way, this cannot be called as a sexual harassment. So everybody should not only know what is sexual harassment, but also they should be aware as to what is not sexual harassment. Further, therefore, once we know that this is not on sexual harassment, it also prevents someone from being wrongly accused. As I said, there are incidences where the men have committed suicide. Now, we need to protect the women. We need to keep the environment very, congenial and free of any fear. So, if such cases happens, one should not hesitate to complain. That transparency should be there. And if such kind of a thing happens, like cultural differences, misunderstanding, posh is something, the training is something which helps you to deal with such kind of an majors. Now, where as a trainer, we all should be well versed with other acts. So, for example, if the sexual harassment is through email or through WhatsApp, then in that case, you have to apply not only POSH Act but also IT, IT Act 2000, Cyber Act, right? If it is relating to transgender, then we have a act, Transgender Person Protection of Rights Act 2019. All right. If it is relating to small children, then POSCO Act is applicable. Now, IPS has been replaced by BNS, and I've given you the section which talks about the BNS relating to sexual harassment. Now, how this started actually? We need to understand and we need to go 50 years back. And we all know about Aruna Shanbag's story. The nurse was attacked in Mumbai hospital, wherein she scolded that peon or something. So he brutally murdered her. Nobody talks about the posh here, nobody talks about the safety of women at workplace, but everybody talks about what, rape and euthanasia and all these things. But this is the case which nowhere it's referred to as workplace safety measures. Now coming to another, what do you think? Whether posh is a power desire or sexual desire? It's more of an power desire than sexual desire, because had it been a sexual desire, a person would have gone out and satisfied his sexual desire. But here it's more of a power desire. The opposite, the woman is vulnerable. I can take disadvantage of a situation. I am in a certain position, right? So it's more of an power desire. And let's understand this by one case. Rupan Deval Bajaj versus Kavarpal Singh. Now, in this case, the senior lady officer of Indian Administrative Service belonging to the Punjab cadre and working at the relevant time as the special secretary. So she filed a complaint against IGP of Chandigarh and Punjab and Chandigarh. So he was Mr. Gill. What had happened was that during a dinner party, the men and women were sitting separately. Families were involved. Miss Rupan Devil Bajaj was with her husband, and what happened was she Mr. Gill, who was the senior most person, he was sitting and he called Miss Rupan Deval Bajaj, come here, pointing out the finger. So she thought everybody is there probably, and what's the harm? And maybe something of work related he must have, wanted to share. So she went there. When she went, he told her to sit. So she sat, but he pulled the chair so close to hers that if she had to get up, it couldn't be without touching Mr. Gill, right? So she realized something fishy. Every woman has that sixth sense. So she thought maybe he's drunk or he is high. So she quietly pulled back the chair, got up, and started turning. And while she turned, Mr. Gill slapped on her posterior. Now, slapping on the posterior, what all do you think? In public, somebody is into your private space, he is touching your some part of body which nobody would like. What would be your emotions? It would be embarrassment, it would be anger, it would be sadness, helplessness, right? So, and anybody would not feel like going to the work next day. So obviously she filed a FIR against Mr. Gill. But the accused moved the Punjab and Haryana High Court, saying that this FIR should be squashed under Section 482, because this is not an outraging of an modesty of a woman. See, that time there wasn't a Sexual Harassment Act. So the court squashed everything. But this lady went up to the Supreme Court, and finally Supreme Court said that yes, we have made a gross error of law. It is the act of Mr. Gill in slapping Mrs. Rupan Devil on her posterior amounted to outraging of her modesty. So, but there was a hue and cry after the Punjab and Haryana's High Court's decision, and ultimately, Supreme Court had to give this decision, right? Now, we really need to salute this Bhauri Devi, a lady which is backbone of the Sexual Harassment Act. Now, what happened was Bhauri Devi. You all know that Rajasthan is. Just give me a minute. Rajasthan is well known for child marriages. All right. Now, what happened is government of India thought of doing something for this, so they appointed Sathin. So, what was the job of this Sathin? The job of Sathin was to prevent the child marriages which were happening in the state of Rajasthan. So, accordingly, this Bhavi Devi was appointed as a uh, Sathi. So One day what happened, before that, understand the situation. This was in 1990s, wherein this custom and tradition was very much rooted in the state of Rajasthan, and somebody from outside coming and telling you don't do this, don't do that, stop child marriages, obviously the villagers were very much against this. So what they did was, they were very much opposing this Bhauri Devi. Bhauri Devi, one day she realized that a infant's marriage is taking place. Hardly a 11th month old baby is getting married. So she went there and she tried to stop. Upon which the villagers got angry and they brutally bet, Bhauri Devi. So after being getting beaten by these villagers, obviously we are not Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan's. So she went to her home and she was all alone and whole lot of villagers in front of her. So she went home, but then she realized that if I keep quiet, probably these men would harass me more. And what I'm doing is the job which has been given by the government of India to me, which I'm doing it honestly, and I have to do this because my appointment is for that. So this will again and again this will happen. So it's better that I complain to the police. So she goes and she complains to the police. And what must have happened? The police denied to take her complaint. They denied to take her complaint. They did not accepted the complaint, which was known to the men. They further got instigated, more encouraged, and what happened was they that day itself they gang raped Gauri Devi. Then this lady again went to the police station. Her complaint was not again, there was hesitation to take the complaint. The medical examination was not done in time. So, see, there are laws. The medical examination of a woman who claims that the rape has been, she has been raped. So, the medical examination is to be conducted in a stipulated time period. But here it did not happen. So what happened? An NGO named Vishakha came to rescue her, and they filed a suit in state of against the state of Rajasthan. So the High Court, the government of India refused to take any responsibility, saying it's a matter in between Bhauri Devi and the village people. We have nothing to do there as an employer. But the matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court here gave an guidelines. Firstly, they defined the sexual harassment. They said that a safer working environment is a responsibility of the employer. It is a duty of employer to file a complaint. Moreover, the burden of proof shifted to the employer. That is very important, and they have to assess the employee if she has been sexually harassed. They have to form ICC redressal committee, and it is a duty of an employer to spread awareness through trainings twice a year, right? So these were the Vishaka guidelines, which are based on constitutional right to equality, freedom to live. So see, it's not living like animal existence. It's living without any fear, and the freedom to choose the employment. No discrimination on gender, caste, religion. Here I remember Sant Tukaram Maharaj Abhanga, which says, कोणाचेही वर्म कोणाचेही वर्म व्यंग आणि बिंग जात पात धर्म काढूच नाही. See that time. No discrimination on gender, caste, religion, etc. etc. So important Abhanga, which is applicable even today. So we end this session with the video and see you all tomorrow sharp at 7 p.m. Thank you so much. शांता ताई